All right, test. Oh, we're on. Oh, okay. I thought I was still waiting to get unmuted. Anyway, if the people in the foyer, if you guys could start heading in and finding your seats, that would be great. We're going to get started here in just a couple moments. Once everyone actually makes it in here and gets seated. All righty, well, let's go ahead and get started. I see some people are still moving on in from the foyer, but if you guys could move it on in. We have an action-packed evening that you don't want to miss and watch from the foyer. You want to watch it from in here. All right, so let's go ahead and pray and get started. Lord, thank you so much that we could be gathered here in the middle of Silicon Valley, Lord, with so many like-minded individuals. Thank you for bringing us all together. Thank you so much for providing us with this church in which to gather and for a pastoral staff that believes in our freedoms and in our rights to assembly, Lord. We thank you for all these people who would come out, who wouldn't be stuck at home in fear, but we pray that we'd all be here to hear your truths and how to proclaim the gospel and the principles of freedom even better, Lord. I pray that you'd bless Neil and Craig as they come speak tonight, and Camille and Haley as they sing. Please help us to get the things out of it that you want us to learn and be able to take those and share them. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen. All right, who's ready to get started? We have an awesome night packed full of speakers. Oh, do you have one of the flyers? Could someone grab me one of the flyers? Mom, do you have any? Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we got flyers printed of the upcoming speakers. Of course, we had Charlie Kirk a couple weeks ago. We had Dr. Simone Gold pack the place out. We actually had to turn people away because Dr. Gold brought so many people in just 3 days' notice. It was awesome. Next month, on May 29th, not next month, but in a couple weeks on May 29th, we have Dr. Judy Mikovits, who is featured in the Plandemic documentary. So she'll be an interesting one to hear from. We have a critical race theory symposium that's upcoming as well. And we have a fatherhood and crisis panel. We have Curtis Bowers of the Agenda documentary upcoming as well. And we have some really cool speakers coming in the fall that I can't tell you who yet, but you'll know who they are and you won't want to miss it in the fall. So be sure to stay tuned for those. Without further ado, Neil, you ready to go? Would you like to? Oh, Neil's not ready to go. Okay, well then I'll go ahead and fill the time. How many of you guys know what happened today? Today in history. It's a pretty major day. I'm assuming Dad knows this one. Anybody else? What was it? That's right. Yes, exactly. One person, well, and of course Dad knew it. No, did anybody else know that? This is Victory in Europe Day, V-Day, VE Day. This was the day that the Germans officially surrendered in Europe. And of course, they were still fighting on the Eastern Front against Japan, but the war was over officially on this day in 1944. 44, yes. So anyway, oh good, Neil's ready. Well, there we go. There's your 2-minute history lesson, and now Neil's about to take you through an 8-minute civics lesson. So take it away.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't expect him to call me up so soon. So, thank you. So if we can go to the slides. As I always say, I always make this excuse. I was convinced by my staff that I better speak at every event. And so, thank you. So I always have lots of stuff to talk about. And that's my ministry, No Blind Faith, beyond the VAC ministry. So my name is Neil Mama. I'm the president of the VAC. And I want you guys to make sure you support all the people out there. We're trying to encourage businesses here, especially after the talk. There's an NRA booth over there. In case you didn't know, make sure you walk back there and talk to them. It's on the right hand, from my right hand. So, years ago, I wrote a book called Jesus is Involved in Politics. And today's talk is about laws can't change hearts and you can't legislate morality. So years ago, I wrote a book called Jesus is Involved in Politics. Why aren't you? Why isn't your church? And in that book, I refute all the objections that pastors or Christians have about not being involved in politics. I go through them systematically. So today I want to address 3 of the objections that Christians and non-Christians bring up. So let's look at them. 1, it is laws can't change hearts. 2, it's wrong to impose your moral values on others. And 3, you can't legislate morality. So let's look at the first one. Laws can't change hearts. I get these all the time. I mean, many people think, well, you know, it doesn't matter what you legislate because laws can't change hearts. And when I hear this, I'm actually quite surprised. Now, how many of you guys think that laws can change hearts? Just out of curiosity. A few. Well, hopefully when I'm done, it'll be all of you. I think laws change hearts all the time. Let me give you a good example. See this picture? Do you know who that is? If you're younger, you probably have no idea who that is. If you're older, you do. That's Britney Spears. She used to be a pop singer. She is still a pop singer. She shows up now and then. Do you know what she's doing in that picture? She's driving down the street or a freeway with her baby in her lap, and that's her security guard on the other side. Now, you should have heard what people said about this. Oh, how horrible she is. How could she be so irresponsible? They should take her kids away. In fact, some folks were saying, look, social services should be meeting her at her door and taking that little baby away because that is just the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. Yet if you'd stop and think about it, less than 25 years ago, how did you take your kids to the grocery store? How did you remember those trips in the station wagon to see Grandpa? Where you were a kid, right? You were sitting in the station wagon and you were fighting in the back seat, and your dad was going, stop it, whack, whack, whack. And the kid that always got hit the most was the kid in the middle who was just reading a book. Now, did you think that your parents were the most evil, horrible, vicious? Do you think that Social Security should have met you at your grandfather's home and said, I'm sorry, you got to take your kids away from you? What happened? In the few years, now we're 25 years ago, but I used this example 10, 15 years ago. Within 5 years to 10 years of that law, people thought that the most evil thing you could do is drive down the street with your child in your lap. The law had changed people's hearts. And it changes hearts and minds every day all over the place. In fact, we see over and over again that laws change hearts. Now, it may not change your heart, but it sure will change the hearts of your children and your children's children. Whoever grows up under the law automatically assumes it. And in fact, it even changes the hearts of immigrants. I came here as an immigrant, and I adopted a lot of American laws. And then I realized, I said, wait, why is that even a law? I always thought things that happen, that when laws change things, I think that's the way it always is. Like, I always thought there was always an income tax, till I found out there wasn't. It was about 1913, 1914, when they actually started the income tax. Well, wait, how did America survive without an income tax? Quite well, thank you very much. Now, when I first heard this complaint, I said, I got to go look this up. And so I went to the Harvard University site, and I looked up hearts and lives and social change and laws. And I found that you can get a PhD from Harvard in things of like the role of laws in achieving cultural transformation. The left knows that laws change hearts. Why on earth are we sitting here, well, laws don't change hearts? You know why? Because we think that laws don't change hearts towards God. Maybe not. But you know, it can hurt you. In fact, how many people have been deceived by the bad laws we have against the gospel? Laws change hearts all the time. Okay, let's look at the next one. Hopefully, if you were here, how many of you were here last time I spoke, which was a few weeks ago? Good. Well, not too many. So the rest of you are going to learn something that I taught last time. This is called, it's wrong to impose your moral values on others. I see this all the time. I was sitting one day at work at a company. This is a company that's no longer around. It was called Philips Semiconductor, and I was an engineer. I was consulting there, and I was fixing something on my board. There was a technician sitting across from me, and he had a cush job. He was reading the newspaper while I was working, and he said, "Oh," and there was a law against partial birth abortions passed that morning. And he says, "Those dang," he used the actual word, "Republicans, they want to force their morals on everyone." Thank you for that. And I turned to him and I said, "I have a question for you." He said, "What?" I said, "Is that your moral value, that laws shouldn't be forced on, or that moral values shouldn't be imposed on other people?" And he looks at me. I said, "Let me rephrase that. Is it your moral value that people shouldn't force their moral values on other people?" And he got this wide-eyed look on his face. And then he said, "Well, then what is the answer?" I said, "I'm very glad you asked me." Of course, I was. Can you imagine that I wouldn't be glad somebody asked me a question like that? But this is what we call a suicide statement. A suicide statement is a statement that kills itself, that is self-refuting. For instance, if I say this statement is a lie, right? Or if I say, I can't speak a word of English in English, right? So last time we talked about suicide statements. A suicide statement kills itself the minute you say it. So this point, you can't force your moral, it's wrong to force your moral values on others, is a suicide statement, because the minute you say it, you've killed what you've said. Another suicide statement is, there is no absolute truth, to which we say, absolutely. You say, are you absolutely sure about that? Is that true? There's so many things you can ask from that question, right? So that's the second one. Let's look at the last one. So by the way, if anyone asks you, it's wrong to force your moral values on others, you say, wait, isn't that your moral value? In which case, why are you imposing that moral value on me? Now, here's the real thing. Of course, it's okay to impose moral values on other people if they truly are moral values. It's a logical necessity. We've got to impose moral values on people. The question is, whose moral values are we going to impose? Yours? Mine? Mother Teresa's? Or Hitler's? And I'll answer the one, and you're right. I'll answer exactly what. So let's do number 3 as we wrap up here. You can't legislate morality. This is my favorite one. I was sitting in I do a talk on how abortion is wrong, and it's called How to Refute Abortion Arguments Without Using the Bible, because I think even atheists should be pro-life, right? So I have this thing, and I was a friend of mine who is a Christian and has a PhD from Stanford, and really smart guy, and we had like 3 patents together, really smart guy. We're sitting and going through, and I'm going through my arguments about abortion, and so finally at the end, he wasn't pro-life, and at the end he says, okay, so maybe you're right, because my argument was, I can prove to you that the embryo is human. And it's your job to prove that it's not. Because I'm not the one that's killing it. Right? If you're killing something, you better prove it's not human before you kill it. Right? If you're going hunting and you see something in the woods and you're like, well, it could be a deer, it could be a 4-year-old child. When can you shoot it? When you're 99% sure it's not a 4-year-old child? No, when you're 100% sure it's not a 4-year-old child. Okay, so I'm like, you prove to me 100% that embryo is not human. Then you can kill it. So finally he wraps this up. He says, well, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. But you can't legislate morality. Okay, I was in the middle of eating some Thai food, and I almost choked on my chicken curry. It was the red chicken curry type, the type I like. And I'm like, what? I mean, this guy's a PhD. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to have some fun with this. I said, okay, let me ask you this question. He says, what? I said, can you give me one example of a moral value, of a law that's not based on a moral value? So he starts thinking, and I get bored. And so I decide to help him. I say, well, yeah, hey, how about murder? He goes, no, that's a moral value. That's not a kid. That's fine. I'm like, fine. So he keeps thinking. I get more bored, and I go, I'm going to help him again. I said, well, yeah, what about the law against stealing? He goes, no, that's also a moral value. And then he says this, you're not helping me. The point is, we can and do legislate moral values on other people and we impose it on others, there is no law that's not based on a moral value. The real question is, whose moral, it may not be my moral value, it may not be yours, but it's somebody's moral value that we're legislating out there. And the question is, who should be legislating the moral value? And we come down to the question of whose moral value should we be legislating? Yours, mine, Mother Teresa's, or Hitler's? And the answer is God's. But beyond that, let's look at what the Declaration of Independence says. The Declaration of Independence says that there was an objective moral law. And it applied even to King George. The whole foundation of our country is that it wasn't a subjective moral law. It was an objective moral law that applied to everybody, including people who weren't part of our new country or going to be new country and who weren't even part of our culture. They thought it applied to all men in all nations, even to those that were kings or thought they were kings and ruled over other men. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to what? To which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. Who is he talking about? And then he goes on to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these, and say it with me, are what? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of? Thank you very much.
All right, see, when you come to VAC meetings, you get a bunch of different stuff thrown at you. So now you get music. So if you guys want to start setting up, getting ready. Camille and Haley are an awesome musical duo. We met them when we were at a New Year's party in the Midwest at the Duggars, and we invited them to come out a couple months ago and sing. And thanks to this awesome collaboration with Turning Point USA, shout out to them and VAC, we were able to bring them out again to sing for you guys. They're a great friend of the ministry, great friend of the organization, and they're great friends of ours as well. So yesterday, they were driving into town, and their dad calls me and goes, okay, the girls aren't listening to me, so you have to text Camille and tell her to write a 2A song. I know they can do it. I know they can do it in a day. So just text her, tell her to write a 2A song. So I'm like, okay. So I tell Camille, I go, don't shoot the messenger. Your dad told me that you guys need to write a 2A song, and I agree. So I told her also to write a VAC song, but we're still working on that. I know they're going to write a VAC song one of these days. So they whipped up a 2A song in about 4 hours and practiced it and then played it for us last night. Camille's an excellent songwriter, so she was able to pull it off. And Haley too, yes, Haley too. And so they sang it for us last night. They're going to sing it for you guys tonight, and it's a terrific song. They had a song last summer for Trump 2020. It went viral, got like 30 million views on Twitter. I'm sure they'll brag about themselves tonight so you can hear. No, but they've had awesome successes in their music career, and so we're honored to have them with us tonight. So let's give a great VAC welcome to Camille and Haley.
Check. Hey, test your microphone. Okay, awesome. Haley said we're going to start with the national anthem today. Is that my friend, Mary Catherine? Is that you? I'm Mary Catherine. Okay, say hi to everybody. Because wait, wave your hand. Hi, Bailey, stand up. Because this is the daughter of Neil, and she wrote an abortion poem, or actually a rap, and I really want her to sing it, rap it here sometime. And I wrote it, I'm going to put it on my website. Okay, so here we go, national anthem.
There's the flag over there. Hand over your heart. All right, stand for the flag,
All
that's right.
Yes.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallant
for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Praise the Lord. So thankful for our country. And you know, we're singers, and so a lot of times they say musicians should stay out of politics. Do you guys agree with that? That's a big no, no, no. Okay, so back in the day, we wrote a song for Rick Santorum that went 1 million views and all national. And then people were like, don't do politics, it's gonna ruin your career. And then 10 years later, we ended up writing another song about President Trump, and it went to millions, 30 million views over that. And so that has led us around the whole country. I'm like, hey, if only Republicans hire me and conservatives, I'm good. So this is our song, Keep America Great.
Let me
My papa in the front row. Show them your Trump hat and make sure that they know you're Trumper, Dad. Okay, that's good. Back the blue Trump hat. Actually, it's got a blue line. And this led us around the country. So Dad said, hey, you should write a song for Trump. He said, hey, and he told us the next song we should write too. So if you guys have any more suggestions for songs, let us know. Here we go. Keep America Great. Get your energy up, Haley.
Keep America great. Keep America great. Gotta stick to our guns. Keep the freedom we won. Keep America great. There will never be another USA. Freedom won't come back if we give it away. It's time to vote. It's time to pray. Let's join as one. Let me hear you say, vote Trump 2020. Go Trump 2020. Vote Trump 2020. Vote Trump. Keep America first. Keep America strong. We are all in the fight for our God-given rights. Keep America one. 1, 2, 3, 4. There will never be another USA. Freedom won't come back if we give it away. It's time to vote. It's time to pray. If you love your flag, let me see it wave. Vote Trump 2020. Vote Trump 2020. Vote Trump 2020. Vote Trump.
Hello.
4 more years. Come on, everybody. 4 more years. Come on, everybody. 4 more years. Come on, everybody. 4 more years. There will never be another USA. Freedom won't come back if we give it away. It's time to vote. It's time to pray. Let's join as one. Let me hear you say, vote Trump 2020. Go Trump 2020. Vote Trump 2020. Vote Trump. Keep America great. Keep America great.
Thank you. Oh no, we're hoping it comes back sooner than
song,
that.
that's right.
Okay. So this is our next song, Dad. Thank you for helping us, telling us to write this one. God, N or G. This is called Back the Blue. Anybody love our blues? Anybody love our police officers? They work so hard for us. So, police department got defunded in Austin. Dad calls up, Camille, write a song for Back the Blue. So I said, Lord, I said, Dad, pray it on me. Because a lot of times if I have songs like, if I want to write them fast, I pray, and God gives them to me. 4 hours later, I called Dad back and I said, Dad, you want to hear a song? So here it goes, Back the Blue. Actually, Back the Blue. You're starting.
We will back the blue. Who's gonna be there for you 24/7, even holidays? Our Minutemen up to date. Police departments take no breaks. Who's gonna stand for justice, running toward the bullets when we call? They give their lives, risk it all, and we never know their names. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up. They're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up. It's time we defend and remind them we will always stand beside you. We will back the blue. Who are these men and women each day. Someone's dad, someone's mom, someone's daughter, someone's son. What makes them fight for strangers? Holding up the laws that keep us safe, keeping peace in our streets, always one phone call away. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up, they're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up, it's time we defend and remind them. We will pray and stand behind you. We will back the blue. We will back the blue. My father always told me, show them respect. Look in their eyes, shake their hand and say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you've done. 911, it's an emergency. Wake up, they're fighting for you and for me. Don't give up, it's time we defend and remind them. We will always stand beside you. We will pray and stand behind you. We will back the blue. We will back the blue. Back the blue.
Thank you. I'm so excited. You know, we've become quite the cause singers. We have 5 albums, and we have country and Christian and Christmas. We do a lot of covers. But we're getting like to this place where we want to sing music that matters. You know, we want to have the fun stuff and the love songs and the life songs. But we also want to be always bold enough to stand up for what we believe in and not worry about the backlash. And we get some backlash. Have we got a little backlash, Haley?
Oh, wait a bit.
But then you lose.
I don't think it's personal, though.
I know, it's over beliefs. But sometimes it's personal. Once in a while, your friend from childhood is like, how dare you vote for Trump? And it's like, well, okay, I guess you haven't done enough research in this election, but that's all right. But, past election. But, you know, if you can just grow some backbone, you can have a good life. You find more people. Because of the Trump song, we know the Dowers, we know Turning Point USA, we met Austin, we're here at Calvary. And I'm just so blessed. We lost some friends, we gained literally thousands more. So find your place, ask the Lord. Isn't that a blessing? Find your place and ask the Lord, where is my little stage, you know? Because whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether it's in prayer, you know, it's so important to be praying and asking God to move things in our nation because He is at work. And so we fast and pray on Thursdays. We just ask the Lord, move in our lives. Let us be willing and obedient, that we never want to get off track. We want to always be listening to the Lord's voice because it's easy. Anyone ever been off track? Even a little bit? Anyone forgotten to read the Bible or seek God? That's a few of them, Haley. That's a few of them. That's me sometimes. And so anyhow, but we watched the movie Unplanned. Anyone seen Unplanned? Abby Johnson.
Really
Mike Lindell,
so
who's really fighting for election integrity. He funded Unplanned, this movie. I really encourage you guys to watch it. But I've been trying to write an abortion song, a pro-life, abolish abortion song for years. And after I watched that movie, I was tearing up in the movie. I said, Lord, what can I do to be part of the end of abortion in America? And I got to my guitar, I prayed, and the Lord gave us this song. This is called March for Life.
My body, my choice. It sounds right, but I can't ignore the voice. Something inside of me is whispering as I'm wrestling. Open up your eyes. It's not my right. It's not my choice to take an innocent life, to trade their future for the convenience of mine. So I will stand today for what I know is right, and I will march for life.
We know that abortion will be ended in our lifetime in America.
two lives, two hearts beating inside. It doesn't take eyes to see the forming of God's masterpiece. I feel it deep inside. It's not my right, it's not my choice to take an innocent life, to trade their future for the convenience of mine. So I will stand today for what I know is right, and I will march for life. God said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you fearfully and wonderfully made. I love you, though some may call you unplanned. I call you mine, and that is why it's not my right, it's not my choice to take an innocent life, to trade their future for the convenience of mine. So I will stand today for what I know is right, and I will march. This is my right to be the voice of every unborn child, to overturn the laws that keep them bound, and for their right to life I'll go the extra mile, and I will march for life, 'cause life is beautiful, life is beautiful, life is beautiful at every stage. Life is valuable, irreplaceable, so I will march for life today. I will march for life.
Praise the Lord. I'm so thankful that my parents instilled me with the values of godliness, of life, to fight for causes that matter. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for giving me a godly upbringing, for raising me by the Bible. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. Where's Nicole? Nicole, are you here? Nicole? Nicole in the back. She has a t-shirt stand back there. She's like my best friend now, so I met her here. And she's got Reopen Your Bible on one of her shirts that she's selling. I love that. She's got Reopen California. Get a shirt, Reopen Your Bible. And I want to put a shout out to Cooper Dower, because he got me to do a Proverbs challenge. Hey, if you guys don't know Cooper Dower, look up The Scoop with Coop. He's going to be a big-time street interviewer. He's already been working on it. But he got me to do every single day the Proverbs. And then the next day he's like, hey, I'm going to do it too. So we both are actually a little behind. But it's been fun. You meet all your friends through conservative events, right? So go find the Koopa Scoop. Is that right? Yeah. The Scoop with Coop. Okay, so here he goes. This is actually, but he told me to write the song. Dad told me to write this song. And then Haley, supernaturally, didn't even know that we had been talking about it and started writing it before us.
I was just thinking about gun stuff, and I was like, Camille, this gun thing, that gun thing, there's so many things you can write about, but then she took over the song, and I became the editor at that point.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I've been pressured to write, and I'm so thankful, and Mr. Craig DeLuz, because you are, is it DeLuz? Is that how you say it? I hope I said it right. Okay, because he's speaking here tonight, we're like, okay, we should probably write a gun rights song. And so you can really take some bragging rights on this, so thank you for being here. I looked you up. He's got a grand resume? No, bio. And look him up as well, but he'll tell you as well. So here we go. This is our new song. It's called It All Leads Back to Guns. Here we go. And it's so new that we're going to have the words up here.
Ready? Okay.
Okay, she's my tempo. Is this good? It's very wordy, so we have to go slow. But this will be on our YouTube channel. Look us up at Camille and Haley. They can put that sign up there again. You can find us on YouTube. You'll see our new music videos. Ready? She says faster.
Faster.
Just between you and me, the cities with the gun control are welcoming the criminals, and they don't want you to see.
If you let them take your guns away, they're gonna take your rights away next. Like the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, freedom to meet and the right to protest, the freedom to vote for the person you choose, the right to own land and to grow your own food. When all is said and done, it all leads back to guns. Come on, this is the USA. We should never bow to socialists, godlessness and communists. Never give your guns away. We gotta fight the tyrants, cause they're never gonna give your rights back. Like the freedom to think, freedom to pray, freedom to work for an honest day's wage, freedom to teach and to raise your own kids, freedom to rise because of free markets. When all is said and done, it all leads back to guns. All our rights, they come from God alone, creator of us all. One day we'll stand before his throne, the righteous judge of all. His laws give liberty and life, and governments were made to protect the rights he gave. Like the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to meet and the right to protest, freedom to vote for the person you choose, freedom to, okay,
The right
to own land and grow your own food, freedom to think, freedom to pray, freedom to work for an honest day's wage, freedom to teach and raise your own kids, freedom to rise because of free markets. When all is said and done, it all leads back to guns. When liberty was won, it all led back to guns. Back to guns.
Thank you so much. We'll be back for one more song at the end. God bless you and thank you.
They messed up on the gun song. Come on. It's like you wrote it yesterday or something. No, isn't that great? Can you believe they wrote it yesterday afternoon in just a couple hours? And yeah, so don't forget to subscribe to their YouTube channel, which is Camille and Haley. Also, they have their independent channels. And like Camille said, I told her she should do a Proverbs channel and Proverbs challenge and do commentary on Proverbs. You know, there are 31 chapters in Proverbs, and to do one every day. And then I wrote myself into it too. So we were doing that together for the last month. I'm ahead of her, but I haven't finished yet. That was last month, but yeah. Anyway, now for the third act of the evening. We are so excited to be partnering with Turning Point USA again. Austin, where are you? Austin. He might be in the foyer. He's so humble he doesn't want to be recognized. But I want to give a huge shout out to Austin. Austin, can you hear me? I don't know, maybe the foyer mics aren't on. So Austin is Austin's the, what is it, senior field rep for, come on. He's so humble, he doesn't want to be acknowledged. But Austin is the senior field rep for Northern California area for Turning Point USA. He was the one that approached us and said, hey, we don't have San Jose State to meet with Charlie. How about if we partner with you guys and bring Charlie in? And then he said, how about if we do this event? We'll bring Craig in, we'll bring the girls in, we'll do another TPUSA collab. He's awesome. He's definitely gonna go places. And I was like, Austin, what do you want to say? Come up on stage. I'll give you all the time. And he's like, no, I don't want the spotlight. And so he's awesome. He's always selflessly working behind the scenes. So I wanted to give him a great shout out, since this wouldn't happen if it weren't for him. So what is really cool, though, is Austin said, no, it's not my time to shine. I want the students to shine. And so we're actually going to invite a student, Christian Vega, who goes to St. Francis High School, up to introduce Craig. He's on the wrestling team there. He also trains in boxing. And when he graduates, he plans to graduate the Marine Corps. So let's welcome Christian to introduce Craig.
Good evening. Thank you so much, very much for coming out tonight. Thanks again to the Harris sisters. That was awesome. Again, I don't want to embarrass Austin anymore, but he's always working behind the scenes, and his fiance, soon-to-be, is also always helping out. So again, I'm Christian Vega. I'm the president of Turning Point USA's chapter at St. Francis High School. It's been difficult to host these events post-pandemic, but Charlie Kirk coming out here really opened up opportunities, and so I want to thank VAC for opening up, and so many people have been so kind and instrumental in giving up their time and resources to support us. So thanks again to the VAC and that awesome speech that we heard before. So if you're, one more thing, I want to shout out Turning Point USA. If you're a high school or college age student and interested in opening either a chapter at your high school or college, I know I saw some people almost at that high school age. They have a table outside where you can fill out any information that you might have. We have awesome events, Student Action Summit this summer. We're here from Ron DeSantis, hopefully President Trump will be there, Charlie Kirk, anyone you can think of that's even remotely affiliated with the conservative movement will be out there. That's in Tampa, Florida, again, if you want any more information out there in that Turning Point USA table. But tonight we're going to hear from one of the fiercest defenders of our Second Amendment rights. Mr. Craig DeLuz is the director of Legislative and Public Affairs Coalition, a grassroots, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that advocates for our individual liberties and important constitutional rights, mainly the First and Second Amendment. He has also done work commentary with NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, and has been the subject to many articles in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Mr. DeLuz is also an actor and writer, as well as a community servant who has a lot to say about the right to bear arms. So without further ado, please help us give a warm welcome to Mr. Craig DeLuz.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I don't get a chance to talk about the Second Amendment much in church, so if you don't mind, I'm going to take a moment to pray. Hearts and minds on the Lord. Father, we just thank you. Lord, we praise your name. Lord, we thank you, Father, for each and every soul that you brought here today. We thank you for waking them up this morning, Father, strong in mind, body, and spirit. Lord, we just thank you, Father, for this opportunity to gather together, Father, in this house of worship, Father, in the greatest country on this earth. Now, Father, we just pray, Father, Lord, that your word tonight goes forward with power and with authority. I pray, Lord, that I will decrease, that you will increase in me. Lord, that your word will go forth and do exactly as you've sent it forth to do. We thank you, Lord, for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that you are about to do in and through each and every individual here. In Jesus' name we pray. And all those in agreement said, amen, amen, and amen. This is a lot of fun, I have to tell you. I live in Sacramento, California. And I will just tell you that Sacramento, California, much like much of the Bay Area, is not exactly a conservative stronghold. I will tell you, just to be clear, I I'm here speaking about the Second Amendment, but I need you to understand something, that the Second Amendment protects everyone's rights. I don't care if you are the right of the right, if you are the left of the left. I don't care if you are a woman. I don't care if you are a man or one of the other 33 other genders they say exist. I don't care if you are Muslim, if you are Hindu, if you are Buddhist, if you are agnostic, atheist, or Zoroastrian or Christian. The Second Amendment applies to you. Now, to be clear, I am a Bible-believing Christian. So just understand that a lot of my perspective comes from that. Also, please understand that I am a card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. Some of you youngins may not know what that is. But you know, those of us, of more mature status, we recall. I want to start, and this will kind of be the introduction kind of for my theme for tonight. Abraham Lincoln one time was speaking to a crowd, and he asked the audience, he said, if we were to consider the tail to be a leg, how many legs would a dog have? Please, shout it out. 4. Because it doesn't matter if just because you call a tail a leg doesn't make it a leg. The theme is basically, we're going to talk about tonight are going to be the lies that the anti-gun left, that the anti-civil rights left tell about the Second Amendment. Because, see, that's the way in which they get their agenda passed. They do it by fear-mongering. And by the way, I need you to understand something. These are not just real simple lies. These are lies that have been they have spent millions of dollars to poll test these lies, to formulate these lies, to reformulate these lies, to get people to repeat these lies over and over and over again. So let's start with the first one. The first lie is that, it's about, this is about hunting, or it's about target shooting, right? Or it's about it's about those conservative old white guys who just want to hold on to guns. Okay, yes, I'm conservative. And yes, I want to hold on to my guns. I refuse to accept that I am old. I am older. I figure I'm never actually going to reach old. I'm just going to get older. Last I checked, I'm not white. I know, shocker, right? Shocker, right? Okay. But these are the lies that they tell. But see, ultimately what it comes back to is this, is that it's about the Second Amendment, right? See, to them, the Second Amendment isn't really a right. I mean, it's a right, but it's not a right, it's not really a right? I mean, just because it's second, if it was that important, wouldn't they have made it first? I love when Dave Chappelle said in his routine, he said they made the First Amendment first for a reason, and then they made the second in case the first one didn't work out. But I think it's important for us to understand that the Second Amendment is about civil rights. And see, that's part of the big lie. The big lie they want you to believe is civil rights is about special rights for special people. If you are part of the right gender or the right sexual orientation or the right religion or the right skin color, the right culture, the right creed, then you have these special things called civil rights, and they're going to fight to make sure that you have them. And it's largely consisting of shutting up other people and taking away their stuff and giving it to you. But that's not what civil rights are. See, civil rights are the fundamental rights that are due each and every one of us, that are endowed to us by our Creator, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. They're endowed to us by our Creator, right? So it's not special rights for special people. And oh, by the way, the Constitution didn't give us those rights. Those rights, as we said, were endowed to us by our Creator. The Constitution enumerates those rights. And it enumerates them not to tell us what we can and we cannot do. It's to tell the government what they can't do. And now here's where the challenge comes in. It says, when you read the Declaration of Independence, it says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all remember that part. The part we forget is the part that comes right after, where it says, and to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Do me a favor. If you are the governed, raise your hand. We are the governed. So the just powers that our government has, they have them because we allow them to have them. And so it's important for us to understand that we have the government that we deserve. We have the government that we have earned. And that's why it's important for us to be visible, for us to be vocal, for us to stand up in all of the areas and all of the venues that establish our society, and we need to make sure that we speak the truth. They have something that they call the truth, and it's not. It's a bunch of lies. But it's important that we stand up and that we talk about these fundamental things. So understand that the right to keep and bear arms comes from the fundamental human right of self-defense. You have a right to defend yourself against all enemies, foreign and domestic, up to and including a tyrannical government. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the point of the Second Amendment. Now, the second big lie that they have is they're like, when they pass these laws, is they're like, well, because they don't believe it's really right, they're like, well, you really don't need it, right? You really don't need that AR-15. You really don't need that bump stock. You really don't need that 100-round drum or 30-round magazine. You don't need that gun that's not on the not unsafe handgun roster. You laugh. That's a thing. That's a thing. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But, people so often get the term need so mixed up. I remember one time my daughter was like, Daddy. She calls me Daddy when she wants something. She comes and says, Daddy, I need these boots. I need these boots. And Daddy, they're only $150. I looked at her. I was like, okay. Reached in my pocket. I handed her $50. She looked at me. She looked at the 50. She looked at the 50. She looked at me. She's like, but Daddy, I need those boots, and they cost $150. I said, no. You don't need those boots. You want those boots. What you need is another $100 if you're going to buy those boots. And it ain't coming from me. But they get this idea of need. So last I checked, now maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've taken a history class. But I remember that part that was added to the Constitution. I don't remember it being the Bill of Needs. It's called the Bill of what? The Bill of Rights. So see, here's the funny thing about a right. A right is a right. That person didn't give you that right. They can't take that right away. In particular, especially when as your Constitution, as your guiding document enumerated that it shall not be infringed, I'm confused. Okay, tell me something. So, shall not. What does that mean? No, it can't be that. It cannot be that simple. It can't be that. Because I find it so hard to believe that so many people have gotten this wrong. What does shall not mean? I don't understand why it is so simple to me. But see, they believe, and I think their whole idea of what rights is are all mixed up, right? Like when they talk about the right to freedom of speech, right? They say, well, rights are limited. For example, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Well, guess what? You can yell fire in a crowded theater. In particular, if it's on fire. But see, here's the thing. We have an entire set of laws that are put in place. See, rights are a dangerous thing because people can abuse them. There are people out there who abuse the right to freedom of speech, just like there are people who abuse the right to keep and bear arms, right? But here's the thing. So we have an entire group of laws that are set up that if someone were to abuse their rights, if they were to go into a theater that was crowded and there was no fire and they were to yell fire and someone were to be injured or hurt or something bad were to happen, that individual could be held accountable for abusing their fundamental rights. We have a whole set of laws, and guess what? We have the exact same thing for the Second Amendment. We have this one particular law in the books. It's called murder. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a pretty serious crime, right? There's also assault with a deadly weapon. There's illegal, we have laws in place that if someone were to violate or were to abuse their rights, they will be held accountable under the law, civilly and criminally. But here's what we don't do, right? When someone goes to walk into that theater, we don't put a gag on them. In the event that someone might abuse their rights when they're in the theater, we don't gag everybody and make sure that there's no possible way that they can yell fire in that theater. But that's the way our Second Amendment is treated. Their attitude is, well, because a small group of people may or may not abuse their right and cause harm unto others, we are now going to, here's the word, infringe on the rights of everyone. Right? We're going to now infringe on the rights of everyone. And my response to them is, number one, you don't have a right to do that. But number two, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Because, see, here's what we know, and this goes into the next big lie. More guns equals more violence. Dr. John Lott wrote a book called More Guns, Less Crime. It's a fantastic read. As a matter of fact, after that, I encourage you to then read his other book, The War on Guns. But it's important to understand that the information and the data that the anti-gun, anti-civil rights left is putting out there, the information they're putting out there is all lies. We'll start with this. First of all, it's important to understand that most of the anti-gun research that is done is not done by criminologists. Most of the work is not done by economists. Now, it's important to understand why this is important, because those are two groups that actually study human behavior. They are within the social sciences. They study human behavior and apply formulas to it in order to determine whether or not something is working. Most of the people who are doing the anti-gun research, the anti-Second Amendment research, are medical doctors. So they study diseases, not people's behaviors. See, they believe the Second Amendment is a disease that we need to be cured of. To them, they treat it like a public health crisis. And the way in which you address a public health crisis is to seek to remove the things that are causing harm. And by the way, we know anyone who's been involved, anyone who's paid attention over the last year with COVID-19 knows that the medical community is not above misleading people. They are not above passing along bad information, right? In fact, it was the funniest thing. You guys have probably all already heard the study that 52% of Democrats believed that COVID-19 was 70 times more deadly than it was. They honestly believe that half the people who got COVID-19 were going to have to go to the hospital and were going to die. And that was all from misinformation from the medical community to the left and to the media, which is pretty much the same thing. But so it's important to understand that the data and the information they're giving you are incorrect. For example, they want to tell you that, we'll use this example. They want to tell you that there's an epidemic of black men, young black men of color being shot by police. But if we actually look at the numbers, a young black male has a like a 700% chance, greater chance of being shot by another black male than they do from being shot by law enforcement. In fact, young white males are much more likely to be shot by law enforcement, or at least in larger numbers. Now, the thing they always come back with, they always say, well, when you compare it to the proportions in society. And I'm like, well, no, that's bad math. That's voodoo economics. What you want to look at is police interactions. And when you look at police interactions, once again, it shows that they are much less likely to get shot. They also want to tell you, for example, that assault weapons, semi-automatic center-fire rifles, there's an epidemic of crimes with those. Can someone tell me what percentage of crimes involving firearms include assault rifles? Excuse me? About 1%. Someone said 3%, and yeah, but no, because see, that 3% number encompasses all long guns. All long guns. Here's another one. In the state of California, it is illegal for an individual to purchase a .50 caliber rifle. And I remember I was in the committee when I was talking to the chair of the committee, and I was asking the author a question, and I asked him, I said, how many crimes have ever been committed in these United States with a .50 caliber rifle? Well, there are dozens of crimes. I said, no, that don't include illegal possession of a firearm. I can tell you how many. Exactly. Hold on. For those of you who a little hard to see, that's a 0. That's none. Absolutely no crimes have been committed with a .50 caliber rifle. But for some reason, they need to be banned. And I think a lot of this comes from it comes from Hollywood, you know. So much of Democratic policy is influenced, especially when it comes to guns, by Hollywood. Take, for example, smart guns, right? You literally have people who want to pass laws mandating smart guns even though they don't actually exist. Or let me clarify, the ones that do exist, they've demonstrated that they can be hacked within 3 minutes. Now, the last thing that I want to do is attach something electrical or something computerized to any part of my firearm that is essential. Right? I've gotten really into using red dot sights. But I always have on my firearms that I have a red dot sight, I actually have a set of iron sights. Because if that thing ever decides it's not going to work, I'm not going to not be able to hit what I'm aiming at. But my first response is always, well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. If you want to put smart guns in the hands if you want to require people to own smart guns, let's do this. Why don't we take I was telling the legislature, why don't we take all the Capitol Police and we'll give them all smart guns? The people who protect you, we'll give them smart guns. Now, I know some of you are like, well, why would you put them at risk? No, because they're going to say, no. But in California, and this is, by the way, this gets this other thing. In California, we have this thing called the Not Unsafe Handgun Roster. How many of you have heard of it? Am I lying? Is it literally called the Not Unsafe Handgun Roster? Because they would dare not call a firearm safe. So here's what it is. It originally started off as a way to make sure that guns met a certain standard. They passed a drop test, that they didn't just fall apart, and that they basically functioned, right? Which sounds like a good consumer idea, right? You send in, the manufacturer sends in a couple of samples of the firearm, $200. It's tested, and it's approved for the roster. Well, see, the problem was that was the camel's nose under the tent. Then they came back, and they wanted to see, could we put feature requirements on it? So the first things they came up with were a loaded chamber indicator, which was basically a little thing that pops up if your chamber is empty, right? Or down, whichever way. But you would know if there was a round in the chamber. And the other thing was a magazine disconnect, so that in the event that someone got a hold of your firearm, before they got it out, if you can eject the magazine, there wouldn't be, even if there was a round in the chamber, the firearm couldn't go off. That passed. And so now any new model firearm had to be that was sold in California had to have those features. If it didn't, you couldn't sell the new model. Could still sell the old model, but you can't sell the new one. Then they added this thing called microstamping. How many of you have heard of microstamping? Okay. Microstamping is, as you know, as you may or may not know, so when you shoot a gun, the hammer comes down, a firing pin strikes the primer, and that's what causes it to ignite and shoots the bullet out. Well, on the tip of that firing pin, in my little microscopic writing, they want to put the serial number of your firearm, right? So that in the event that someone commits a crime and shell casings are left there, then they could track it back to the gun that fired it. Now, the funny part is in California, they required that in 2 places. The odd part is that technologically, that is impossible. But our former Attorney General, Kamala Harris, so when the law was originally passed, they said, well, once the technology becomes available. Well, they finally got microstamping to where, I don't want to say it worked, but we'll talk about that, to where they could actually mark it, but it didn't mark in 2 places. But then Attorney General for California, Kamala Harris, decided that she was going, it's good. And then all of a sudden, so as of 2013, no firearms in the state of California could be sold from a firearms retailer that didn't have that to us, to regular people. Well, what's happened is that there have been no new semi-automatic handguns added to the roster. So, for example, when you guys hear people talk about like Glocks, I'm a Glockaholic. I'm into Glocks, but so like in California, the last generation that you could buy is Generation 3. We're up to Generation 5 in Glocks, but you can't buy those from a dealer, from a firearms retailer in California. So, but what happens is, as firearms fall off the list, now here's what starts happening. So if you change the color of the firearm, it's now a new model firearm. It has to pass the test in order to be on the roster. If you change who supplies your springs, that firearm gets thrown off the roster. If you change who supplies your triggers, firearm off the roster. What's happening right now is you have a list of firearms that are available for sale in California that is slowly but steadily shrinking. And then they just passed a law that says, well, we're going to change microstamping so it only has to be in one place. But then for every new firearm we add to the roster, we're now going to take 3 firearms off the roster. So in other words, what it means is if someone is anti-gun, they can literally go and manufacture and create a piece of junk gun that has microstamping, have it on the roster, and then have perfectly good firearms that are available, that people are using, and have those taken off the roster. So I just want you to that all of their information, everything that they're doing is based, once again, on lies. All right? The information that they are providing to you, the data, the information. So all the people who are doing the research for them, like I said before, they're all medical professionals. They study diseases. They don't necessarily study people and human behavior. The other thing that they don't do is their firearm experts know absolutely nothing about firearms. Absolutely nothing. So for every law they pass, they always get angry because, when we would go and we would speak before them, we would provide them with information on the technology, and it would just completely and utterly go over their head. They just simply wouldn't, I don't know if they wouldn't or they couldn't understand it. At one point, they were trying to make it so that a block of aluminum would be considered a firearm. Seriously, I actually, during this hearing, they literally had, it said if something is readily convertible into a firearm, then it could be considered a firearm. So in my presentation, and by the way, in California's legislature, literally you get, on every single bill, they allow 2 witnesses, 2 minutes each. That's rigorous and open debate on legislation in the California legislature. So in 2 minutes, I had an opportunity to say, well, first of all, this is a block of aluminum. I said, the only difference between this and a lower receiver is a CNC machine and the ability to know how to use it. By definition, it is readily convertible into a firearm. Where exactly on this block of aluminum would you like me to put the serial number, Mr. Assemblyman? Then I shared with them a blog post, and this blog post showed how an individual using basic tools converted a shovel into an AK-47. And I showed them, I said, once again, he used simple tools, things that were at his disposal. He didn't use any special machinery or anything like that. So I asked the Assemblyman, Mr. Assemblyman, where exactly on the shovel would you like us to put the serial number? See, I've come to realize that in many cases, these folks are going to vote the way that they're going to vote. One of my good friends, who's also a firearms lobbyist, used to say it was nothing more than kabuki theater. I said, well, if it's going to be kabuki theater, I'm going to put on a show. The thing is this, they don't like guns. They don't like people who like guns. And so therefore, they're not interested in learning about firearms technology, the firearms industry, or firearms culture. They're not interested in learning anything about it. In fact, I can tell you how complicated it is here in the state of California. There are probably 5 people who really understand all of those areas, those areas that I just talked about and how they intersect. And none of them work in the California state legislature. None of them work for the governor. The reason why is because they don't care. And that's what was so great about the song that you young ladies sang, because that is what it is about. People don't understand. If we allow them to treat the Second Amendment like a redheaded stepchild, God, I'm dating myself, aren't I? That's an old joke, right? But if we allow them to treat the Second Amendment, think about this. It is a civil right. And if we allow them to treat that civil right the way that they will, what will they do with our other civil rights? Well, let me tell you. They tell you that nobody's coming after your guns, right? Nobody's going to take your guns. How many of you here have heard of red flag laws? Okay. Let me tell you what a red flag law is, at least how it's done here in California. California, we have this thing called the Gun Violence Restraining Order. All right? This is where someone you may or may not know can go to a judge and have you deemed to be a danger to yourself or others. That judge will then issue what is called a gun violence restraining order, where you have lost your right to own or possess firearms or firearm parts or ammunition. Now, mind you, you don't even know it happened. You were not invited to the party. You were never told. You never got a chance to face your accuser. You never got a chance to defend yourself. Hold that thought right there. So now, along with this gun violence restraining order, the judge has also issued what's called a gun seizure warrant. Now, this gun seizure warrant gives them the ability to go search your home, your place of business, your girlfriend's home, your boyfriend's home, wherever they think you might have a firearm, to go and search and confiscate any firearms that are there. By the way, whether they're yours or not. So, you're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, watching your favorite show, and all of a sudden along comes a knock at the door, and you open the door, and there are about a half a dozen law enforcement officers with candy and flowers. That was a joke, yeah. No, they don't have candy and flowers, because think about it. This officer has been handed this warrant, and he said this individual has been deemed to be a danger to himself and or others, and may or may not be in possession of firearms. Go take his guns. I promise you they are going to show up in the full assaulty tactical gear, ready to deal with whatever may come. Now let's rewind that. You're sitting on the couch, you're just watching TV, you're having a good time, and you open the door, and there are now half a dozen fully armed, tactical-aided. Anyway, they're looking pretty gnarly, and they are there to confiscate your firearms. Oh, did I forget? You didn't know they were coming. They hand you this warrant, you've lost your rights, they now take your guns. They search your house, they search your place of business, they now take your guns, and they tell you sometime in the next 21 days, you'll get to go to court and defend yourself and petition to get your rights back. Now, a couple of things. Number one, this is a civil action, not a criminal action, which means that you do not have a right to a vigorous defense. If you cannot afford a lawyer, tough. One will not be provided for you. All they've told you is you have to prove you're not a danger to yourself or others. They haven't told you what that standard is. Do I need to go see a psychiatrist? Do I need to get a letter from my doctor or from my pastor? I mean, who said this? I don't even know who said this, because in the state of California, you may or may not even get to face your accuser. You may not even get to face the person who said claimed you were a danger to yourself or others. So now you go to court. You don't know what the standard is. And let's say just somehow you are able to convince the judge that you are not a danger to yourself or others. And he says, okay, they shouldn't have taken your firearms. You have a right to get your firearms back. The Firearms Policy Coalition, who was one of my clients who I work with, we did a study. And we determined that 80% of the people who were deemed to not be a danger to themselves or others, meaning they had their firearms confiscated, they went to court, and they got their rights back. 80% of those people never got their guns back. Because, see, there's a whole different legal process to get your firearms back. And see, in many cases, what happens is in particular, if you are in a jurisdiction that does not believe in the Second Amendment, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, okay, well, you have to prove that these are your firearms. Did you just show up and take them from me? I mean, they were in my house, in my gun safe that I had the combination to. One would just naturally assume that they would be my guns, right? No. Do you have a bill of sale? Right? Or what if you got them what if you moved to California from another state? What if you don't have that paperwork anymore? What if you inherited the firearms? There are many different ways that individuals obtain firearms that are legal that may not necessarily include a paper trail. But in many cases, you won't get your guns back. So let's think about this. Now, remember, we started this off talking about all of our civil rights, right? About how if you're going to let them treat the Second Amendment like that, well, then let's see. The right to due process, right? What due process did you get? Did you get a chance to face your accuser? Did you get a chance when you finally got into court? Were you innocent until proven guilty? Nope, not at all. What about the right against unreasonable search and seizure? Have you committed a crime? No, you haven't committed a crime. But yet they are now able to search any place they think you have a gun. They're now coming into your home. You've committed no crime, but they've now come into your home and can search wherever they believe you might have a gun. Let's see, what else is there? Private property rights, right? Your firearm is your private property. And not only have they confiscated it for a period of time, but they've confiscated it, in some cases, forever. And sometimes when you do get it back, you don't necessarily get it back in the same condition that it was in when they took it. So let's see. That's 4 or 5 of your civil rights that now have been violated. All because guns. So when they tell you that it's not about civil rights, when they tell you it's about keeping the country, just understand that if you allow them to violate one, if you allow that camel's nose under the tent, they will come back for more, I promise you. Great example. I'm going to give a confession, but it gets better. So in 2016, I did not vote for Donald Trump for president. I didn't vote for anybody. My concern with with Donald Trump was this. Here was a guy who 18 months earlier was a New York liberal and then decided to run for president. And he was saying all the right things. I just didn't believe that he would govern like a conservative. I am very, very happy to say that I was wrong. But there was at least a couple of areas where I had some serious concerns. And one of them was bump stocks. Now, I know a lot of people, first of all, who knows what a bump stock is? Okay, okay, so we pretty much know. So my issue was this. First of all, I don't own a bump stock. I don't want to own a bump stock. Ammunition's too expensive. Ammunition's way too, first of all, it's illegal to own one in California, but ammunition is way too expensive, so I didn't want to own a bump stock. But here was the challenge. So what the ATF did was they redefined machine guns to include bump stocks. Now, mind you, machine guns are defined in statute, right? They're already defined in law. Law, go back to Schoolhouse Rock, laws are written in the legislative branch, in Congress. They're not written in the executive. But that's exactly what they did. They rewrote the definition of a machine gun in order to ban bump stocks. Now, once again, I don't care about bump stocks. I really don't. But what I know is this. If we allowed that administration to ban a firearm, what's the word? What's the phrase I was looking for? Oh, there it is. To violate separation of powers in order to ban an item that we don't like, then what's to keep someone from doing the exact same thing, like this president, from doing the exact same thing with a part that we do care about? Say, suppressors or magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. See, here's the thing. And anyway, this is one of the other reasons why I start off in the very beginning. I told you I am a card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I grew up in Richmond, California. How many of you know Richmond is not a conservative place? Y'all know Richmond. Okay, so so when I went to school at Chico State, how many of you know Chico's different than Richmond? But it was my first time really getting exposed to a different set of values. In that community, it was very, very different, much more conservative. But I came to realize that I was never a liberal. I was raised conservative. My parents, both diehard Democrats, raised me to believe in individual responsibility, to believe in free enterprise, to believe in traditional family and moral values. These were all things that I knew they believed in, but for some reason, the way in which they voted was inconsistent with the values that they raised me with. And I said, there's no way I can continue to be a Democrat. Because if I'm going to be involved, it's because of the values. Let's just be real. I didn't like Republicans then because I didn't know any Republicans. All my friends were Democrats. But I became a Republican because those are the values that I was raised with. They're consistent with my values. And one of the things that I get in trouble with so often with my fellow Republicans is when I tell them, yeah, that thing you want to do, that's not consistent with the values you profess. See, I know I'm getting a little off topic, but I'm a big believer in governing according to your values, right? We are supposed to be self-governing, and we have a government that exists mainly to rein in those who choose not to be self-governing. But I sit on a school board. I've been on a school board in the area where I'm at for the last 16 years, and it's an area that is 62% Democrat. Yet until this last election cycle, we were a majority conservative board. And it's because we governed according to our values. While every other school district was laying teachers off during the economic downturn, we didn't have to lay off one teacher because we had money in reserves, because we spent our money wisely and we didn't overtax the people. We hadn't gone out for a school bond in over 20 years. I believe in governing according to your values. And so when I make that criticism of what the president did, first of all, let's just be honest, none of us are perfect. All of us at our job has done something that we look back and we're like, I wish I hadn't done that. Right? If we're honest, if we're being honest with ourselves, right? I'm just saying that if our rights are going to be maintained, if we are going to have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, then the first thing that we have a responsibility to do is to be involved in that civil governance process. See, the Second Amendment is a backstop. And that's important. When I talk about, defending yourself against a tyrannical government, I don't say that in a, we're going to have armed revolution. I'm saying that in a we don't want to ever have to get there again. But the only way we do that is by standing up during these times, every election cycle, when we have the opportunity at nonviolent revolution. That nonviolent transfer of power is the cornerstone. It's what makes us so different from any other place in the world. But see, we have to protect that. We have to protect it by being involved in the governance process. By, number one, getting informed. Getting informed. Coming to stuff like this. You're doing what you need to do. You're getting the information. The second thing is you need to get engaged in the process. Right? If you are not active in the electoral process, if you are not helping people who are running for office, then maybe you need to be running for office yourself. If you don't have the time, well, guess what? You have the money. It doesn't have to be a lot, $5 here, $10 there, but you have to have some skin in the game. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to be a sharer of the gospel. You have to be someone who talks about the importance of being involved, who talks about the foundational things that make this country great. This is the greatest place on God's green earth. As imperfect as it is, there is no place better. There is no place where people are climbing over 13, 20-foot walls to get into. There's no place. Think about this. You have people who are fighting to get in here so that they can get free stuff and then tell us how evil we are. Come on. But folks, here's the thing. And I'm just going to say this. And once again, this goes back to the thing. Look, this is about our civil rights, right? This is about us standing up and fighting for the fundamental rights that are endowed to each and every one of us. And the great thing about the First and the Second Amendment is those are the fundamental rights that protect the others, right? But here's the thing, folks, about civil rights. If you do not use them, you will lose them. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And no notes, guys. Look at that. That was all in his head. He knows that stuff. So we'll have Craig back up for a time of Q&A in a couple minutes, so be listening for that. But if we could get our ushers ready, that would be great. Like I say every month, the VAC is a totally donation-run organization. We really rely on the donations month to month of you guys at these meetings in order to be able to keep these things going. So we appreciate your guys' givings, and we want to continue bringing in great speakers like this. You guys can go ahead and start passing. But like I say, each month we want to keep these free so that we can really get people educated. And we also appreciate your giving. And let's see, where was I going with this? Anyway, thank you for your giving. It's really appreciated. We really want to grow as the VAC as well. We've had some really big speakers in and some very big events. And we have some cool places that we want to go in the future. Methuselah, could you put up the Afterglow slide? So tonight as well, we will have the Afterglow with Craig and Camille and Haley. So be sure to sign up for that. It's at a private residence nearby. It's a $50 donation to come. It'll be a great time. There's refreshments, more time to talk to Craig as well as Camille and Haley. So hope you guys will sign up for that. And without further ado, let's get some questions. So like usual, we can line up right here. Let me move this mic back a little bit. All right. Yep. Well, thank you for your giving. We really appreciate it. Because as VAC continues to grow, our expenses continue as well. The facility, the speakers, and those sorts of things. Oh, okay. Cameraman's coming down. All right. Okay, he's going over there. All right, well, since today is May 8th and we're talking about V-Day, I have a quote from Winston Churchill. Of course, my favorite Winston Churchill quote is the, well, yes, ma'am, but in the morning I'll be sober, but you'll still be ugly. Great Winston Churchill quote. But I have a better, more appropriate for church one. There's some really bad Winston Churchill quotes out there as well. The dude was really brash, but he won World War II, so you got to kind of give him props there. I thought this is a great quotation to share with the group for tonight. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. Let me read that one again. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. So what a great quotation there. Craig's back. All right, good. I only had to fill a few minutes. The crowd was missing you. All right, so let's go ahead. We got line up here for Q&A. So go for it.
I have just one question, and that is, why do people have to have the AK-47s and stuff? With all the shootings and stuff, can you give me another way that without taking guns away from people, is there another solution to the problem of all these shootings other than that? Because as far as I can see, there isn't. Thank you.
All right, right off the bat, there you go.
All right, right off the bat. Well, the first thing that I will say about whether or not, like I said, it's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. Do I need multiple firearms? Here's the thing. Ultimately, in some cases, it is a need because there are some people who can't use a handgun, because they're disabled, right? And so for some people, it is actually better and easier for them to be able to defend themselves with a long gun, with a semi-automatic long gun, than it is for a handgun. But once again, it's not about need. Once again, it's not the Bill of Needs. It's the Bill of Rights. And if you're going to infringe on a right, well, that kind of gets in the way of that whole thou shall not infringe. In terms of violence, understand this, that there was a time in this country where people drove around with rifles in their car, in the back of their car, where schools had shooting teams and had ranges there. Guns are a fundamental part of American culture, right? But it's only recently where it seems like people have developed this belief that the way in which to deal with when I'm angry at somebody, or when I'm depressed, or when I'm dealing with something, or all of a sudden, it seems like now all of a sudden people are choosing to solve that problem with a firearm. See, guns are not the problem. We do not have a gun violence problem. I do not call it gun violence because guess what? Guns are not violent. I know because I've tested it. I've laid my firearms out on the table, right? I've spoken very, very, harshly to them, cursed at them and everything. I even opened up, a bottle of bourbon and I put it out there, just in case, because I wanted to test and see if these guns would be violent. Nothing. The problem is a gun is a tool, right? Just like a car is a tool. Guns are not the problem. The thing is that we have a violence problem. We have an issue where we are not doing enough to help people to understand and better deal with the challenges that they are facing. And as a result, they feel like they need to turn to violence. We have a violence problem. We have a people problem that needs to be addressed, not a gun problem. I think if we face that fact, first of all, if more people come to know and stop looking to the world for solutions and start looking to Christ for solutions, I think that big old Christ-centered hole that's in them will get filled up, and then maybe they won't have those issues or feel the need to express themselves in a violent way. Thank you for your question.
So I remember an expression that said an armed society is a polite society, in as much as if I think that I pull out a gun and you pull out a gun. So would you comment on open carry and concealed carry from the point of view of our gun rights?
So at one point, actually, historically, concealed carry was considered that only the bad guys concealed carry, right? That's how it was at one point. What I will say is, me personally, I prefer concealed carry, so maybe I'm a bad guy. But the whole point of it is this, and one of the things you learn when you do concealed carry, when you take on that both the exercise of that right and the responsibility, you realize that every interaction could end. The potential of someone losing their life or getting seriously injured increases dramatically because there is now a firearm, right? So because you are a responsible citizen, you are a lot less likely to engage in the sort of behavior that would potentially lead to a shooting. You basically become more polite, right? You are less likely to get confrontational with somebody because you don't want it to go there. And it's the same thing with firearms. I think that when you have a society where people know that other people have firearms, and by the way, studies show that where there is a greater degree of concealed carry, there is less crime, right? Where the greater prevalence of firearms are owned, there is less crime because people realize that every negative interaction has a greater likelihood of ending fatally. Criminals may not be the smartest knives in the drawer, but they're not dumb. They are not going to, or less likely to engage in crimes that will potentially cost them their life. And a great example is in Great Britain, when they banned all handgun ownership, they saw a dramatic increase, a 300% increase in home invasion robberies. People didn't even bother to wait and see if you weren't home, because they would just go in and they would just rob your house. And you know why they felt especially emboldened? Because they didn't give up their guns.
First of all, I want to say it's very awesome to see that there's Californians that actually like guns, because I'm from Oklahoma, so this is very nice, and I'm a little ignorant, I guess, so that's awesome. And I've got a couple questions here for you really quick. Just out of curiosity, how many crimes were solved with microstamping?
None.
None? Okay, figured that, but I was just curious. And this is kind of a longer one, but how do you get involved and educate our lawmakers? Because all of these laws that I see being put out, one recently was being passed, and they had the lady on Tucker Carlson that was the author of the bill, and it was talking about banning barrel shrouds and other stuff, and Tucker asked her, like, well, what is a barrel shroud? And she couldn't define it. So these lawmakers are trying to push things that they don't even know about, and so how do you get involved and prevent that from happening?
Barrel shroud is an evil thing on an evil big black gun.
That's true.
That scares people, and so we have to ban it. First of all, let me just to your opening, let me just share a little thing with you. There are more guns in the state of California than there are the rest of the country. Amen. Keep in mind, we're the most populous state. There are more registered Republicans in the state of California than any other state in the country. Now, mind you, there's twice as many registered Democrats. But the point that I'm making is that in this country, in this state, or the we're behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But in California, there are plenty of Bible-believing, freedom-loving, gun-owning, gun-toting Americans. So I'm proud of that. I just think that we're probably not used to being around each other, especially if you're here in the Bay Area. So yes, there are plenty of us here. We're just kind of spread out. Some of us are hiding. The first thing is, and here's the thing. Young people going and educating them, because see, they want to listen to young people. So having young people go and educate them, great idea. Trying to get them out to shooting ranges, out to a day where they can learn about firearms. Although it was funny, one time we actually had a few legislators, and we had the California representative for the Brady campaign out, and we demonstrated we were shooting with suppressors. And we wanted to show them there's a reason why they're called suppressors and not silencers. They do not make the gun silent. No, it doesn't do that, right? But we demonstrated that both up close and from a distance, yes, you can actually hear. As a matter of fact, I actually have them on camera admitting, yeah, no, it doesn't make the gun silent, but we still don't want them to be able to be sold. But so part of it is they don't want to know. And I hate to say that, because see, once they're armed with the truth, then they're responsible for the decisions that they make. And so a big part of it is, rather than trying to convince bad people to make good decisions, we need to try and elect good people.
That's true.
Good laws do well, good men do better. Men and women.
And then one more, if I
yes.
can, just really quick. You brought up that, and the girls singing their song talked about the, gun crime and stuff is usually the highest gun control places like Chicago, Atlanta, etc. And I would ask you, do you know anything about Kennesaw, Georgia?
About what?
I think it's called Kennesaw, Georgia.
No.
But it's a city that has, it's mandatory for somebody in a household to own a firearm, and their crime rate has completely plummeted. And so the thing that I just don't understand in the gun control debate is you have one side saying facts and the other side just making stuff up. And that's the side that's seemingly winning, sadly, and trying to take everything away. But
well, it is frustrating because, once again, as a lobbyist, it is very frustrating when I am sitting there and I know that I've won the argument, but I haven't won the vote.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why it's important that we get this information out, that we with FPC, we're always producing videos talking about and showing their actions and their ignorance in hopes of getting people to listen, because ultimately the biggest issue is that most people just don't know. I mean, what happened with COVID, between COVID and George Floyd last year, was a bunch of people went out to buy firearms in the state of California and found out that those common sense gun laws that they put in place were in fact infringements. They realized that they were in danger and they wanted to protect their families, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, what do you mean I have to take a test? Firearm safety. What do you mean I can't walk away? I can't buy my gun and take it home. Wait. What do you mean I have to get a background check to buy ammunition? Wait, hold on. You're telling me that that gun right there, it's safe and in common use in every other state in the country. Why can't I have that gun right there? People are waking up, at least some people now are waking up to the fact that these common sense gun laws are infringements. And it's an opportunity for us to educate. So if you know someone who bought a gun during that time, right, who just, get them out to the shooting range. It's a great, or you know someone who doesn't own a firearm or has never shot a firearm, take them out to the firing range. Don't even talk to them about the politics of it. Just let them get to know a little bit about the firearm. And it'll open up a door to be able to talk about it, because especially when they go to buy a gun and they find out just how challenging it is, just how much of an infringement it is, then all of a sudden they're going to start taking a second look at the people they're putting in office, if that's a priority for them.
All right. I hate to cut you off there,
Yes.
but I want to make sure we get through all the questions.
Okay.
no, yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's try to keep the answers short so we can get through everybody.
Got it.
That's why I'm up here.
Brevity is not a thing for me. I will try.
So I have two main questions. My first one is, do double jeopardy laws apply to the whole unsafe for yourself or others gun seizure?
That's a good question.
No, because it's civil, not criminal.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then, well, that was short. And then my other one is, what legislation did President Trump do to protect our 2A rights?
The most important thing that he did was his appointments to the U.S. courts at the district level, at the appellate level, and at the Supreme Court. If I can just add to that, most of the anti-gun legislation that we're seeing is happening at the city, state, and county level and are being challenged in court. And that's going to give us an opportunity to push back on all of those bad laws that are being passed at the local level. So that's the most important thing. If he did nothing else for the Second Amendment, that was the most important thing.
All right, thank you.
Good questions.
Hi, would a no trespassing sign help in stopping some of those people come to your house to, search for? Okay.
No, they have a warrant.
Oh, and they can still come even though you have a no trespassing sign?
If they have a warrant, the warrant trumps the no trespassing sign.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marianne. I live in Berkeley as a conservative.
We'll pray for you.
Woo. I want to reiterate, I have a comment and a quick comment and a question. You guys, what he says about getting active, you can take 10 minutes a week to look at a newspaper article and write a letter to the editor. You can take 5 minutes to call a politician and tell them what laws you want and what you don't want. You can take an hour to teach your kids to do the same thing. You can do so. I'm doing it all day long. But, and I have an email list for anybody who wants to get active. But the question I have is, I'm in a local chapter of one of the firearms organizations. And the person, because it's a nonpartisan thing, said we should invite, there is a group called Progressives for the Second Amendment. And I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm afraid if Antifa is being taught how to use firearms, because they're going after somebody like me. So how can we get out of letting those people into those groups, even if they're nonpartisan?
I will tell you this, and I am a big believer when it comes to rights. In the Second Amendment community, I've worked with gay, lesbian, trans, progressives, communists, socialists, Democrat, which is probably the worst of all of them. But the point is this, is that I talk to them about, I focus on the Second Amendment, and I use it as an opportunity to inreach and talk about the other issues. Here's the thing, a fundamental right is a fundamental right for a reason. Just like I may disagree with what someone says, but I will forever defend their right to say it. And that's where we have to understand, if we believe that it's a fundamental right, then it's even a fundamental right when we disagree with them. And that's a dangerous thing. I get it. I totally get it. And I get the frustration, and that's why I have other groups that support the Second Amendment that don't include, that are more in line with all of my values. I'm not involved in just one effort. But once again, I will forever defend the rights of individuals to exercise the same rights that I have. One thing that I did want to share, and when she was talking about being active, here's the thing I will tell you. They have a database of all of their voters, right? If you have an opinion you want to make known, here's what you do. You send them an email, you print it out, you put it in the mail, handwrite the address, put it in the mail, and then call them. Because each time you contact them, it's recorded. at the state legislative level and in D.C. And if nothing else, they have a count of how many of their constituents contacted them who are for an issue and who are against an issue. That voice in and of itself, that sort of activism, and then if you can get 5 other people to do the same, it makes a difference. Believe it or not, they pay attention because ultimately, no matter what their philosophical belief is, most politicians have one goal. That's getting reelected.
Yes. All right, MK, always bringing the heat with your questions.
Thank you for being here tonight. I really enjoyed your speech.
Thank you.
So recently, me and a couple friends, we were having a discussion/debate with our teacher about guns. I told, or my little argument, or we were in a discussion. So I said, you know, sir, we can have gun controlled stuff, but then how does that, sorry, formulating my words. So, for instance, we might put control on guns, but won't that just lead people to use other weapons? Why is that different from knives and the jihadists who use buses to run people over? You know, there's stuff. Guns aren't the only weapon in the world. So I asked her if we're putting control laws on guns, why aren't we doing the same for knives and other things? Her defense was, with a gun, you can shoot someone from far away and have no contact with them. Therefore, it's easier for you. You don't have to feel remorse because you didn't physically stab them or physically run them over, I guess. So I'm just curious, what would be your response to that? What is your take on that?
96% of firearms that are used in crimes do not belong to the original owner, which means basically criminals, but this is going to be a shocker. Criminals don't follow gun laws.
Whoa.
Wow. Brilliant.
I know, right?
This is why we bring him. This is why we bring you these great speakers.
I know. Look, that's a nugget right there. Criminals don't follow laws. When these laws are put in place, laws apply to the law-abiding, right? So when you put restrictions on firearms, the only person you're putting restrictions on are the potential victims of criminals, right? Criminals don't say, okay, well, I'm going to go rob a store, so I guess I can't. So they're clearly, if they're going to go rob a store and shoot somebody, they're clearly not going to go. They're going to make sure that they get a gun that's on the not unsafe handgun roster. They're not going to go get an assault weapon and put all of the stuff on there that's assaulty. They're definitely not going to go get a 30-round magazine. They're going to make sure they only have 5 rounds in their magazine. And they're gonna look for a place that is not a gun-free zone, because Lord knows they do not want to go into a gun-free zone with a sign, because those signs have magical powers, kind of like rainbows and unicorns. So ultimately, the controls that are put in place only affect law-abiding citizens, not criminals. Criminals will have guns, and we've seen that in places where they have banned guns. Guess what? Criminals still have their guns.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. I don't know if you can answer my question, but the other day I made a phone call to the courts because my background check is not coming back and I don't have any criminal history. So I paid the $55 to get the, I don't know what it's called, life scan to challenge it. And I thought, I'm going to call the court because I've never lived anywhere besides Santa Clara County. And I found out that the traffic court sent a ticket that I took care of in 1993 to the criminal court for some reason. And supposedly I'm supposed to file these papers and ask for a court date and wait 3 to 4 months. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Is there any way that I can...
Well, before I answer that, let me just say, number one, I'm not a lawyer, and most importantly, I'm not your lawyer. So I would never look, I cannot necessarily offer you legal advice. There is a group called the California Gun Rights Foundation. If you look them up on Facebook, they have a hotline. You can give them a call and share with them your problem. They're actually looking for opportunities. Basically, I have a t-shirt at home. It says, eat, sleep, sue the government, repeat.
Oh, where can I get that?
So they live for cases. And the interesting thing is the majority of background checks that are denied are false. And And going through the process of appealing it is a very, very difficult one. I would encourage you, once again, they're called the California Gun Rights Foundation. Give them a call, and they should be able to get you in touch with somebody who can at least answer your questions about it. It's difficult. They've had anyway, I could go on and on. That's going to be my suggestion for you.
Well, even the lady on the phone, she said, she didn't say we made a mistake, but she used some words that implied it was an error. But I have to fix it and go through, so anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
California Gun Rights Foundation.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, you know Craig now. That probably puts you on a watch list or something on the state of California. The fact that you showed up here tonight. All right, I'm going to say let's call it quits on the questions. Let's just go through who's here, and then we'll see where we are on time after that. So go ahead.
Okay, so I have a somewhat similar situation. So I went to buy a gun, put the money down, 9mm semi-automatic, and the California Department of Justice comes back with, they didn't deny it because I have no violent felonies or misdemeanors on my record, but they didn't approve it either. So I'm kind of in limbo. So I guess it's a legal question also, right? What do you think?
So what happens is there used to be that after the 11th, they were supposed to at one point, they're supposed to give you your firearm. They're supposed to release your firearm to you on the 11th day if you have not been denied. The California Department of Justice has basically decided, well, there was a law that was passed that actually then gives the Department of Justice up to 30 days. And if it's not, even with that, they're supposed to, after 30 days, give you your firearm. Now the Department of Justice has basically said, we're going to take as long as we want on the background checks, and if a firearms retailer gives the firearm to you without an approved background check, they could lose their license to operate in the state of California. It is something, by the way, that the Firearms Policy Coalition is suing the government over. Once again, the Firearms Policy Foundation, let me make sure I get your number afterwards, because they're always they may want to add you as a plaintiff to the suit.
Okay, that's different from the gun rights that you mentioned with the lady just before.
Yes, it's a different. Well, actually, I'm trying to think. Are they on that lawsuit? I want to get your name, and I will make sure that I get it to the right people who are suing the government.
Okay, thanks.
My question is, do you think that when we send letters to our congressmen and senators that we should send it as certified or registered mail so they can't say that they didn't get the letter?
Yes or no. If they're lying, they're going to lie anyway. I'm a big believer in, like I said, I tell people, send an email, print it out, put it in an envelope, and I'm telling you, hand write the envelope. Don't print your name. Hand write it, because they opened handwritten letters, believe it or not. Hand write it, mail it to them, and call them. Hit them each time, because like I said, they record each and every time a constituent reaches out to them on a particular issue. And by the way, just so you know, in many cases, they're going to vote the way they're going to vote. Where it really makes a difference is, number one, if it becomes an issue on their radar, to where they're actually going to look into it. If they realize that a lot of constituents are reaching out to them, they'll actually pay attention to it and won't just vote the way their caucus tells them. But also, for those who are kind of in the middle, believe it or not every Democrat is really high on the idea of gun laws. They're just doing it because that's what their caucus wants them to do. But if it's something that's on their radar and they're open to discussion, we have changed members' minds by actually just getting them to listen. I don't know if that was any help.
Well, you didn't directly answer my question, but it was of help.
Yeah. Once again, the problem is that a lot of times if they got it and they're telling you they didn't get it, then getting a certified letter is not going to really change their mind about what they're going to tell you, because there's a lot of people that are there in that office, and the person may or may not know whether or not it may not have been entered into the system or something like that. So, I mean, if it makes you feel better spending to do that, then go ahead and do it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, really quickly, just want to jump back in. Don't forget to sign up for the Afterglow as well for tonight. It's going to be a fun time, some more time with Craig. Also, Matt, when you get a chance, if you could switch to the Judy Mikovits slide. She's coming up May 29th, so you won't want to miss that. So make sure you're registered. That one's going to be a pretty big event. I think surprisingly, she has a huge draw, so it's going to be exciting to have her. All right, so yes.
I have more of like a observation, a comment on what you said. I thought was really interesting that in our past culture, we had high school shooting clubs for kids. Wouldn't that be a good idea to do right now, just to get them, to be responsible with guns? And
there is money that is supposedly collected that is supposed to go to firearms safety that goes into nothing having to do with firearm safety. We keep saying, why not do it to provide people with discounts on gun safes or to help supplement gun safes if you want people to store their firearms safely? Why not spend it on education, on firearms education? Even if you don't want a firearm, you should learn how to safely handle a firearm. You should learn how to be able to tell if it's loaded, how to unload it, if you should come across a firearm. One would think it would just be common sense, but they're not interested in firearm safety. What they're interested in is a disarmed society.
Yep.
So how do you go about finding where those funds are to put them to work?
I'm sorry, say it again?
How do you go about finding where the funds are so you can actually put them to work in gun safety?
They know exactly where they are, and we've pointed this out. It has been pointed out to them multiple times. The problem is that's, once again, firearm safety is not their goal. And so if that's not their goal, then you need to put someone in there whose goal it is.
All right, thank you.
Hi, first I'd like to thank you for what you're doing. I think it's amazing, and I wish there were more of you. I had an issue in Fremont where after going around a car in the Walmart parking lot that was blocking the driveway, I got chased. I called 911. While I was on the phone with the 911 officer, that people were throwing things at my car. The actually young man got out of the car and started running towards my car when I came to a stop sign. 911 lady said they were too busy and I wasn't a priority. Asked me to try to make it to the police station. To cut this short, because there's a lot more to it, but I asked her if I can't make it to the police station, do I have the right to defend myself? She said no.
Whoa.
And I called the mayor. I know the mayor quite well. I called the mayor and said, look, I'm going to put this on your Facebook page because this has been this seems like a pattern with the Fremont police. She contacted the chief of police. Chief of police contacted the head of dispatch and called me. I haven't called her back yet. I'm not really sure whether I should have an attorney handle this or whether I should actually even call her back. I don't know whether that was a violation of a civil right, of a constitutional right or not.
Once again, as I said, I'm not a lawyer. First of all, you have a fundamental right to self-defense, period. There's no, you don't have to be a lawyer to know or to understand that. You have the right, and the right to self-defense means if you are in bodily danger, if you are in danger of being harmed or killed, you have a right to defend yourself and use appropriate force to put an end to that threat. And in the state of California, a lot of people don't know, while we are not a stand-your-ground state, we actually do have, as a part of the law, you do not have a requirement to retreat. So you are not obligated to retreat in the state of California. Now, instead of stand your ground is a little different in that if it was deemed that this was a case of stand your ground, then the case doesn't even go to court. In California, that can be used as a defense. So it's part of the jury instructions. They would deem that if this individual met this standard in self-defense, then they are not, then they can be deemed to be not guilty for self-defense. Once again, I'm not a lawyer. I did not sleep in a Holiday Inn Express last night, but that's pretty fundamental understanding of California's self-defense law.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming. Tim Gildersleeve. I've run for political office 4 times, and I do support the Second Amendment. But my question that I wrestle with is what type of guidelines or boundaries do you see on this, if any at all? Should we have a bazooka, or should we be allowed to have a bazooka? That might be a good example. But do you see any boundaries as far as types of these instruments that we should own? I guess I don't know if I've explained that very well.
Here's the thing. I generally don't get into the discussion about whether or not we should be allowed to own tanks or bazookas because it's a straw man argument. The fact is, we're not debating the right to own or a tank or to own a fighter jet or to own a bazooka. We're talking mostly about firearms that are safe and in common use throughout the country. The AR-15 is the most commonly owned firearm in the entire country, and they want to ban it. They want to make it so that you cannot own it. By the very definition of Heller, they do not have a right to be able to do that. Magazines that hold more than 10 rounds are common and safe and in common use. Even here in California, because during that 1 week when we called it Freedom Week, where you could buy magazines that had more than 10 rounds, we bought out the entire country.
Yeah.
So they are definitely in common use. If they weren't before, they definitely are now.
I used to live in Texas back in the good old days when we had an open carry inside the vehicle. Plus we had open containers, so you could have your can of beer. You got the Winchester on the rack in the back of the pickup. And I have liberal friends or coworkers, I shouldn't call them friends. And they tell me, I told them everybody's respectful in Texas. It's yes ma'am, yes sir. And he said, yeah, but that's because they all got guns. To your point. So my question is, who do you recommend for replacement governor? A Republican, maybe with balls like Miss Jenner or Mr. Or backbone. I meant backbone.
Wow, I did not see that one coming. Wow. Honestly, I don't know. Here's what I will tell you. At this point, anyone would be better than Gavin Newsom. See, prior to Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, while I disagreed with most of his policies, Jerry Brown understood that because Democrats controlled every executive branch office and both houses of the legislature, he understood that someone had to be the adult in the room, and he couldn't give his fellow Democrats every single crazy and wacky thing they asked for. He gave them a lot of crazy and wacky things, but he said no every once in a while. And especially on some gun stuff, he was someone you could actually talk to because he actually knew firearms. He sponsored a shooting team at a private school in Oakland. You could actually talk to him and he was also very honest with you. If look, yeah, I know you're right, but politics won't let me do that on that one. I'm just going to have to go this way. He at least was honest with you about that. Gavin Newsom, literally his job before he became governor was waking up in the morning, as lieutenant governor, was waking up in the morning, reading the newspaper and finding out if the governor was still alive. And that is his only qualification for being governor. He has pretty much decided that whatever will get him in the newspaper, he will do, and he will approve. And they have sent some crazy stuff to him, and he signed it. So just about anything would be better than Gavin Newsom.
Also, we've got free videos here, indoctrination about the communist invasion of schools. So homeschool your kids, bring them to a Christian school here. So they're free. And also a citizen rule book that's got the Bill of Rights and things like that, as well as communist manifestos. You can compare them, make your decisions, as well as jury rights, where the law really relies on the people and the jury. Thank you.
Sounds like Kamala's job, waking up every day and seeing if the president's still alive, too.
Oh, my. Yeah, that job may have an expiration date on it.
All right,
or at least if he's still
yeah, exactly.
still there.
All right, last question.
Again, thank you for showing up, and thank you for even putting yourself out here, because I know that being an actor, you have the biggest target on you. And in Jesus' name, I want to protect you, and I want your life and liberty to continue on. My biggest thing that I want to ask is, and I need to formulate it, and I don't have it all together. First of all, I am a carrier. I've been a carrier. I have many other states that I can carry in. The thing is I want this to stop with the schools, that we can't protect our kids when they walk into a place of education, and I want it to stop in the government buildings, that we can't go in there and we can't protect the people that need to be protected that are in there. We can't, this government entity that we have going on right now wants to take every thought of action that we can and throw it out the window so that they can tell us that we need to think a certain way. How can we stop this or move towards, or even, I'm from the Central Valley, Sanger, California, okay? I drove here because I wanted to hear you. How can I, in Central California, Sanger, California, get something like you in that area to help? What can I do?
The first thing is, I'm a big believer that when someone is given, has a calling or a passion in their life, that something that they want to see done, part of the reason why God gave it to them is because they have a role in it. Ultimately, organizations like the Firearms Policy Coalition, the Gun Owners of California, the Second Amendment Foundation, the NRA, all are working and all are totally busy doing a bunch of stuff. Many of them have a very difficult time being able to be active at the local level. And that's the reason why it's important to start local groups. There's groups like Gun Owners of San Diego and that started in Gun Owners of Orange County. They actually come together. They've raised money for political candidates. They educate political candidates, and they support pro-Second Amendment candidates. So part of it is finding like-minded people in your community. Come together and then start to educate yourselves, but then start to try and find the resources to do things, because ultimately what you've got to change is you've got to change who is in office. Now the next thing is supporting lawsuits. Lawsuits are not sexy. Lawsuits take a long time, but in the end, that's where our rights are going to be upheld, and that's the advantage of everything that President Trump did, was really helping to establish, and he's changed the face. I'm not saying it's conservative, but it used to be the Ninth Circuit used to be crazy, wacky left, and now at least we've got a shot at winning some cases. And so we need to support the organizations like the Second Amendment Foundation, the Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, and the NRA that are fighting in court, that are going to court, and we need to support those lawsuits that they're filing. And pay attention to what's going on with those lawsuits, because even if it's a lawsuit that's taking place somewhere else in the country, if as it goes further up, it will have an impact on us here in the California. Once the Supreme Court makes a decision on it, it affects everybody in the United States. So those are probably the two things that I would encourage you to do. And just real quick, I want to do just a real quick commercial. So I do a program on both Facebook and YouTube with a friend of mine from Arms Room Radio. It's called The Rundown, 2A News and Conservative Views. It's 9 a.m. every day, every Monday, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. I please encourage you, if you get a chance, watch it. It's there. You don't have to watch it at 9 live, but encourage you to watch it and subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Craig. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So the girls are going to sing the 2A song again, and they texted me and they said, hey, how about if we record it, and then we'll use it for the B-roll for the music video they're going to do for it. So if you guys want to be in the music video, then stick around and stand up and enjoy it, and they'll tell you what to do. All right. And then, Craig, if you want to be in it too, you can jump up there with them. All right. So take us away then. And
Coming right up. All right. So we thought it could be fun. We don't know if TPUSA is okay with us using the backdrop. Would that be okay? Okay. Are you down to be in the middle of the video? Because I just want to get you out to even more people. You can just stand in the middle of us and just put your thumbs up. Sound good? We'll just use little pieces. If you guys want to stand up for it, maybe we can put these even behind us, right here in the middle. Haley, you're strong. Can you help move these? Just to make it more photogenic looking. Oh, okay. If you guys want to register for the Afterglow, Mr. Craig, was it an amazing speech? I was so impressed. Like, if you heard anybody saying, wow, oh my goodness, that's so true. That was me the whole time. I'm a very vocal agreeer. So thank you so much. And yeah, so you just put your best moves on right here in the middle. It's just literally going to be little seconds of it, but if this video goes big, y'all are going to have some bragging rights. So, because we're going to be doing a music video in the future, so it's always fun to have some, hey, we got our first stander right there, a pro-life rapper. Okay, so we're going to put you in the middle, Mr. Craig. Just pretend like you've been on stage before, just natural, you know. You don't gotta actually sing. Just look like you're having a fun time. You could even do a little gun. So if you guys want to stand up and maybe kind of come like to the, because you know, yeah, this is fun. Show all of our, maybe come to the middle areas if you guys can. We're gonna make you all big stars, you know. Gonna make a big star out of you, me, something like that.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm thankful. Thanks, Coop, for letting this happen.
Sure thing.
He could have said no, but he said yes.
And don't forget to sign up for the Afterglow as well. Matt, can we get the Afterglow?
Yeah, the
one back
Afterglow,
up?
if you guys
Because
could
they'll
put
be
that up.
there. Craig will be there. It's a fun time.
You can get to talk at length with
Yes.
Mr. Craig and
them.
maybe
You
get
can
an
talk to
autograph.
them too.
Oh, this is great. So, Daddy-O, you got some cameras?
Oh yes.
Haley,
And
you
they
can
might
even film the crowd if you want to once in
they
a while.
might sing some more at our
You know
house
what, give
too.
it to Cooper. Hey, we
What?
might, actually, Dad's trying to get the sound system to go. Here, Coop.
They might
if you
sing
want
some more at
to.
our house too if I can talk them into it. So
Make some creative video with yourself and everybody else in it. Just different angles, you know. So, hopefully we can get all the words, but if we mess up, it doesn't matter. But if you know of any words, like whenever it says like it all comes back to guns, it all leads back to guns. The big line is it all leads back to guns. That's the end of it. So if you guys want to say it all leads back, any kind of emotions like cool, yeah, you know what I mean? Just you know, like we're at a Christian rave. You know what I mean? I've never been to a rave, but I think they're excited. We might be singing this at the NRA. Okay, Dad. Okay, he's wheeling and dealing. I like it. Alrighty. We don't know the words, so just get some angles that we're loading the words. Hold a second. Words are on there. Hold a second. You guys are great sports. Thank you. We'll just hope that. Oh, look at that. He's cool. He's got a C. Okay.
That's why I don't get nervous in front of you guys, because I
You can literally have the words right there.
Yeah.
Oh. You can see there. Okay. Yeah, so here's the thing. This video, oh yeah, hey, you can even get some of this video. Okay, hey, Dad, this is good because the music video is all silent and then you put the actual song over it. Okay, so everyone jump and stuff. Woohoo! It all comes, yeah, oh, this is awesome, guys. This is just too good. Just too good. Okay, Dad, keep going, keep jumping. Dad, come on the stage. Hey, Dad, come on the stage. Hey, Father, Daddy-O.
Dad.
Hey,
Dad,
come on the stage.
stage.
I know, hey, well, thumbs up. Hey, Dad, come on the stage and get the crowd, then get us, and all the kind of fun stuff. So we're gonna sing it, and then whenever you guys hear anything about guns or anything that you like, you just go whoop whoop. You don't have to. You can kind of get some of us. We're gonna have a lot of A-roll of us. We need all this fabulous crowd and him, the fabulous. Okay, ready? Okay. So whoever's the hype people, just show the people around you how to get hyped. Fun is the name of the game. Oh yeah, this is good. Hi, Dad, check this out. Turn around. Look at that, Dad. Turn around.
Dad, turn around.
Dad, turn around. Look at this. You're missing all the action. Let's look what they're doing. Keep going. Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of cameras. Guys, this is gonna be epic. We might change a lot of minds about guns for this little video. People love to see excitement, and they change their mind if you want to be on a moving train. Ready?
Just between you and me, the cities with the gun control are welcoming the criminals, and they don't want you to see. If you let them take your guns away, they're gonna take your rights away next. Like the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to meet and the right to protest, the freedom to vote for the person you choose, the right to own land and to grow your own food. person you choose. Freedom to run. The right to own land. So we're right. Okay.
Freedom to vote. This is great. You guys are rocking it
Start
off.
over, start over.
You're doing killer. Man.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Here, guys. Get a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom to meet and the right to protest.
You're gonna call right here. So someone get her.
What
She's
is- oh,
rocking
yeah,
it.
yeah, get her, get
yeah,
her, get her.
turn right
Get
here.
her.
Right point. Look at her. Yeah, that's what kind of energy. Yeah, dancing, jumping around.
Okay. The freedom to vote.
Okay, right here. The freedom of speech. Ready?
Okay, again. The freedom of speech, the freedom of press, the freedom to meet and the right to protest, the freedom to vote for the person you choose, freedom to own land and to own your own food, the freedom to think, freedom to pray, the freedom to work for an honest day's wage, freedom to eat and to raise your own kids,
The freedom
to teach.
The freedom
So many
to-
words.
Right, sorry. So new.
Freedom to teach and to raise your own kids. Freedom to rise because of free markets. When all is said and done, it all comes back to guns. When liberty was won, it all comes back to guns. Again. When liberty was won, it all led back to guns.
So let's go again.
That last little part, right?
Without my
Last little part.
talking.
Go ahead. When all is said.
Said and done.
Okay. Okay.
Here it goes.
When all is said and done, it all leads back to guns. Liberty. When liberty was won, it all led back to guns. Back to guns.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Craig, so much for being awesome to be in this. So we're going to get this message out. You guys can find it eventually on YouTube at Camille and Haley, and maybe even on the VAC. We might share it on your
Yes,
channel.
it'll be. And this will be on this live stream will be on the VAC YouTube channel as well. So
Thank
don't
you
forget
guys
to
so
subscribe
much.
to them. Check out the VAC YouTube.
Oh, Jazz said show our singers.
Yeah.
We have 5 albums. Some of the songs are today. We're going to come up with a patriotic album. We have a link with all of our albums for $100 or 5 for 40. Buy 4, 5 get 1 free, or 1 for 12, 2 for 20. Thank you guys. God bless you. Buy everybody's stuff out there. Support Patriots. God bless. Thank you so much for being so awesome. Thank you. Good job. Oh, my Haley, gotta get a picture with Craig. Right here. Right here. That's Hey, Dad, can you take a picture? Hey, Papa.